2nd of September 2022. In this Skidmark, I'm going to talk about some issues in the UK. That country has got serious problems, and all of their problems, most of their problems can be directly related to their leadership. And I don't have a great love for the British, for what they did here in my country. My ancestors were butchered by them, but that aside, fact of the matter is, the UK is in deep shit, and I don't see a leadership there that is capable of pulling them out of their issues. But let's talk about the energy problems. Now, before we start with that, I need you to take a good look at this face. This is the face of the person that drove the Russian sanctions like a possessed person, without for one moment giving any thought to the blowback of that sanctions. She drove it like a maniac. But why? This is the high priestess of the WEF. And then we get this article. European Commission announced 13 countries cut off from Russian gas supplies. After the suspension of Nord Stream, 13 EU countries were completely or partially left without gas. In the European Union, 13 countries have stopped receiving Russian gas or receive it in a limited amount after the suspension of supplies via Nord Stream. This was reported by TASS. As you know, Nord Stream has been closed for maintenance since yesterday. That is, there are no Russian gas supplies to Germany and neighboring EU countries now, she said. And, forgive me, I can be labeled as a chauvinist, but when I read something serious like this, and it's from the EC, and I read, she said, that's at Ursula von der Crazy. She says lots of things. Then we have this. We are at risk of catastrophic poverty, civil disobedience, a new socialist government by next year, the collapse of the UK, nationalisation, price and income policies, punitive taxes on wealth, and ultimately complete economic and financial collapse and bailouts from the IMF. And this is from Heath. Now, if you read that, it is a scary message, but look at that piece. A new socialist government by next year. What the fuck? And these people, these Europeans, they are the ones that are accusing Putin of trying to re-establish the old USSR. They're talking shit. They have taken the EU and slowly but surely turning it into a socialist bloc. But the citizens are fucking blind. They are not noticing where they are going. Putin has pulled off a shock wind that could destroy the free world. The Kremlin's energy war is pushing Europe and the UK towards economic meltdown and socialism. What a heap of shit is that? Putin has pulled off a shock win. They, the Europeans themselves, started the sanction war. They themselves cut them off from their energy. Now they want to blame Putin. But let them blame. The citizens are going to pay. Then there's this article. Britain is now in grave danger of falling into Vladimir Putin's trap. His kamikaze economic war on the West will eventually take down his disgusting category of war criminals. But in the meantime, it's beginning to inflict immense permanent damage on the Western way of life, to the great delight of Moscow's Siloviki hard men. What a heap of crap is that? Vladimir Putin's trap. Who the fuck set this up? Von der Crazy and the EC, they set it up under instigation from the US. They are doing all of this to themselves, but they're trying to blame Putin. But it's part of a plan. The end game here is the whole EU a socialist state. That's what they want. Just think about it. How many rights have the EC taken for themselves and powers and authorities in the past 2 years? Did any citizen vote on it? No. To start off, that fucking EC sitting in Brussels is not elected. But, listen, Europe was always seen as being the cradle of civilization, and we were under the impression that there are intelligent people in charge of things there. But that's not it. And then he goes, we risk ending up with a calamitous poverty, civil disobedience, a new socialist government by next year, a breakup of the UK, nationalisation, price and income policies, punitive wealth taxes, and eventually a complete economic and financial meltdown and IMF bailout. Read that, listen to that, think about that. All they are saying here is we are turning the EU into a socialist state. But they want to blame Putin. This was a big plan. They're making Putin the scapegoat. This is not a plea for pacifism, for looking away when Ukraine is being illegally invaded by a savage regime. Britain was and remains morally right to back Ukraine in a carefully calibrated way. Instead, this plea is for an economic counteroffensive for Liz Truss, the next PM, to tackle Putin's economic and energy war head-on. And good luck with that. And they're pinning their hope on Liz Truss. Liz Truss is going to get the UK wiped out. Mass immediate intervention is inevitable, but must be designed to avoid hastening Britain's shift into demagoguery, welfarism and socialist central planning, all steps down Hayek's road to serve them, that the leftist and green elites are longing us to take. The wrong response? Because too little is done, or because the wrong solutions are chosen. Another piece of shit. But they admit they're going towards socialism. And then I'm just going to read the last line here. Would merely advance Putin's master plan to cripple the West. Putin for this, Putin for that. This is an article that is so biased. The rise for consumers alone is more than the combined defense and education budgets. And who is managing it? This is equivalent to a depression-style shock. Pay rises will protect some workers at the expense of investors, but until and unless energy prices fall again, our national living standards will slump massively. The nation is sending tens of billions more abroad to pay for energy imports. And add to that tens of billions to Ukraine. The state can borrow to cushion the blow, reducing future consumption to prop up current living standards. But our impoverishment cannot be magicked away. Coming after years of quantitative easing, there is a real danger of excess borrowing trigger even higher inflation, rocketing interest rates, mass repossessions and banking crisis. So caution is imperative. And he is stating some facts here, but these facts were all engineered by the leadership. There was little the West could do other than rely on hostile OPEC nations in the 70s. The last time an energy war almost destroyed us, but it was an unforgivable error for Europe to become so reliant on Russian supplies. And this cuck was started by Trump. How the fuck was Europe supposed to grow and maintain themselves? Their neighbor has got the energies that they need, and they had a good relationship on it. But then the warmongers stepped in and decided now is a good time to fuck everything up. But now they want to talk it away. Putin struck at the right time. The zombified Western economy was in the doldrums. COVID was a disaster of unpreparedness and errors, increasing national debts and inflation and entrenching a dependency culture. But the Russian tyrant's canniest move was to understand just how suicidal our energy policy had become. A toxic brew of net zero ideology, deep hypocrisy about decarbonizing without making the nuclear effort, endemic NIMBYism, short-termism, and start of incompetence had radically weakened the West. He gives all the reasons why the West is in the cuck, but then he blames it on Putin. They cannot help themselves. And then this is something interesting. There are 4 broad emergency options. The first is targeted help. Anybody under a certain income gets cash from the state, paid for by borrowing. Some needy cases would be missed, however, and can the benefit system cope? The second is to freeze energy prices for all, with the state subsidizing the acquisition of gas. This looks free, while in fact it's massively increased the national debt as in France. The third is to cut taxes dramatically, something the left always rejects as untargeted or regressive. The fourth is to help some or all firms. Okay, 4 points he makes here. But all of these are just gonna pull the UK deeper into debt. Whenever possible, Trust must cut tax. Whenever possible, she should target help on families and companies that need it and avoid bailing out the well-off. If she must cap prices, given the total collapse of the system, she needs an exit strategy, and she has to launch the greatest, most urgent energy infrastructure program in history, while suspending as many green rules as possible. She needs to work visibly with businesses showing voters they are delivering big investments under warlike conditions, reducing the pressure for confiscatory windfall taxes. On top of the extra debt, all these options come with downsides. All four are being weaponized by the left to shift politics permanently in their direction. I read through this and I can just shake my head. Some of the stuff is good sense, but the bottom line stays. Where the fuck will the money come from? Where will the money come from? And then there's this stupid shit. But once such taxes are imposed, they never go away. In France, the left are calling for bans on private swimming pools, private planes, and even detached housing. Permanent green austerity. The Germans are slashing the cost of public transport, supposedly to save energy, but really to undermine the private car. In Britain, there is a huge support for nationalizations, even though they wouldn't increase the supply of energy or reduce its cost. Price caps, made mainstream thanks to Theresa May, are now the norm. Ever more wages and prices are set by civil servants. Will supermarkets be next? They are deep in shit. And they don't have the money. And they've allowed all this greenies and woke idiots to take them down the garden path. One paradox of Putin's new Soviet revanchism is that it is strengthening America's position as leader of the West. The US emerged better from COVID. Its interest rates have gone up faster, bolstering the dollar. Its healthcare system hasn't fallen over like the NHS, but its energy policy, frack baby frack, as the Republicans advocated in the early 2000s, that has been the real triumph. Tyler Cohen, the George Mason University polymath, argues in a Bloomberg piece that 2022 may be remembered as the year when living standards in the US truly pulled away from those in Western Europe. Why, oh why, did Britain and Europe allow themselves to become Putin's hostages? And again, there is that shit. And I'm asking again, how was Europe supposed to grow? Cheap Russian gas made them competitive and gave them the energy to drive their industries. And now they have closed the taps themselves, and that place is in shit. I'm going to end this. This is what Putin said at the SPIEF conference, but as usual, the West don't pay attention when Putin speaks. The world has been driven into this situation by many years of irresponsible macroeconomic policies pursued by the G7 countries. And there you have it. Fact of the matter is, today as I sit here talking to you, Europe and Britain is in deep shit. And I don't see how they're going to get out of that before they do a total cleanup of their leadership. The political elite must be removed from society. Let your culture dictate how you do that removal, but don't bank on elections, because that road has already been captured by the WEF. Doesn't matter which one you take, you will end up in WEF hell. And this is all of your own making. You're getting this because of the leadership that you chose. Thank you. Please hit the like and subscribe and share the thing. And have a nice day.